What's up? It's me. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be reacting to some of your guys' scary, freaky, crazy, messed up stories. So let's get right into it. No one trust died the day he pulled the trigger. The day my trust issues died was the day my ex-husband shot my pet chihuahua in front of me and our 2 children. This was not an accident. My husband had been abusive, manipulative, controlling, and paranoid for most of our 6-year marriage. After I gave birth to our son, he became convinced that I was having an affair with the doctor because I was breastfeeding and would yell at me. "The baby is not yours. The dog ate all my homework." He said it like 3 times. One time I got so pissed that I threw a glass of water at his head and he slapped me. That was when I knew I had to leave. So I called my sister and told her that I needed to stay at her place for a while, and she agreed. I packed a suitcase, put my kids and the dog in the car, and drove over. When I got there, my sister opened the door and said, "You know, I didn't realize it before, but you have a really nice ass." I told her that she was out of line, and then went to the guest bedroom to unpack. About an hour later, I heard my youngest daughter screaming from the living room. I rushed to see what happened, and she was standing next to the fireplace crying and pointing to the dog. She said, "The bad man shot Coco." I was confused. I thought she meant my ex-husband who was coming to pick the kids up that night. Then I saw the blood and realized she meant our pet chihuahua. I screamed for my sister and she came running. We both looked for my ex-husband and found him in the bathroom holding a gun and laughing hysterically. He said, "I just did it, sis. I shot your dog, ha ha ha." My sister screamed at him, "Get out of here before I call the cops." He left the gun on the counter and walked out, and my sister and I immediately called the police. They took the gun for evidence and asked if I wanted to press charges. I told them that I did, but when they arrived, he had already fled. I will never forget the look of terror on my 2-year-old's face, or the sound of her crying out for Coco. I also and forget the moment I looked at my sister and realized that she was uncrying or even upset. In fact, she was smirking. I was furious and heartbroken and asked why she wasn't upset about the dog dying. She told me I'm not an animal rights activist, so screw him. Even now, 13 years later, I still can't understand how someone could kill a tiny dog, much less a human being, and laugh while doing it. If he could do that to my pet, imagine what he would be capable of with one of us. Thankfully, he was charged with animal cruelty and served 60 days in jail, but only after posting a hefty bond. The court also ordered him to pay for my vet bills, but by that point, Coco was already gone. Yeah, that was definitely something. I feel like I don't need to say anything else. It's pretty self-explanatory. No. 2, taking the dog out. Okay, this isn't exactly a story about a Reddit user, but it happened to a family member. I grew up on a farm and we always had dogs. Some were strays that we kept around, and some we had since puppies. We didn't buy dogs. We got them as gifts from friends or relatives or simply took in strays. My dad taught me to shoot when I was 12, and I learned quickly. I liked the feeling of a gun more than most other things. I used to go shooting in the fields with my dad and sometimes my mom. When I was 17, we had a German Shepherd named Rex, a mutt named Lady, a Border Collie named Duke, and a small terrier named Rusty. We also had a ton of cats, but they mostly stayed indoors. One day my dad told me he was going to take the dogs out back and shoot the one that was too old. I figured it would be Rusty, because he was about 14 and getting slower every day. Later, I heard gunshots and assumed it was my dad. But later that day, my mom came into my room crying and told me that my dad had taken all the dogs out behind the barn and shot them, including the puppies. I was shocked. No one ever threatened the dogs, yelled at them, or otherwise mistreated them. They were loved members of our family, and their food bowls were always full. I didn't understand why my dad would do this. She told me he had snapped and shot them because he said they were a bunch of useless animals. To this day, I hate my dad. He doesn't deserve to walk freely knowing what he did. What sickens me more is that the police couldn't do anything because he hadn't broken any laws. Shooting dogs on your own property is legal, apparently, and that's why this still angers me to this day. He got away with murder. Number 3, not an accident. My father was a hunter and gun enthusiast. As a kid, I hated guns. I remember asking him, "If I bring home a friend, will you shoot him too?" He laughed and said, "Don't worry, he'll probably like it." I never got over this weird feeling of unease and fear. I'm 35 now. A few months ago, my parents were visiting us. My husband has a gun safe with rifles, handguns, and shotguns. I told my parents not to touch anything so they wouldn't, accidentally shoot themselves. My mom replied, "We know what we're doing." Well, my dad decided to show off and grabbed a shotgun. I told him not to, but he did it anyway. As he opened the cabinet, he brought it down on my finger, shattering the bone and taking half my finger with it. I could see the bone in my finger. My husband was furious and chased my dad outside. My dad tried to explain that it was an accident, but my husband was yelling at him about how he warned him not to touch the guns. My dad turned and said, "You think I did this on purpose?" Then he pulled the trigger. My husband froze and stared at him in disbelief. He said, "That wasn't an accident either." Then he just stared at my finger, still bleeding on the table, and left. My husband followed him outside and I called 911. The operator told me to take a deep breath and apply pressure to the wound. At the hospital, the doctors reattached my finger, but they were unsure if it would work because the bone was crushed and there was a lot of damage. My husband went to confront my dad again, but my mom stopped him. I got 10 stitches and a cast. My dad got arrested. My mom keeps calling me, crying and begging me to forgive him, but I don't know if I can. He said it wasn't intentional, but the way it happened was intentional. Oh my God, that one was actually crazy. I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but that guy sounds like a total psycho. It's like, "Oh, I can't believe this happened to me. Why are you looking at me like that? You think I did this on purpose?" Then he pulled the trigger. Oh my God, what the actual hell? That's insane. That is all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed these terrifying stories. And if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I've been your host, and we'll catch you in the next one.